Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Baby Ballers. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the disappointing 1-1 draw for Korea against Thailand in the World Cup qualifiers. It was an early game for me, 7 a.m. kickoff. I was pretty tired watching it in bed, but didn't really like the things that I was seeing on the pitch. There's a couple of key points that I want to talk about, so let's jump right into it. Point number one, guys, was that really our best lineup? If you guys don't already know by now, Jurgen Klinsmann is out as Korea national team manager, and this was the first game post Klinsmann era. And the KFA announced that interim manager Hwang Son-hong would take over for Klinsmann for the time being to allow the KFA some time to choose the next permanent manager. And he brought out this starting 11 for this match against Thailand in Korea. We were the home team. And this is kind of how we lined up, guys. In net, Choyonu, uh, a very familiar back four that we are used to seeing. Kim Jin-soo left back, Kim Young-won left center back, Kim Min-jae right center back, and Seo Ryung-woo as the right back. It was great to see Kim Jin-soo back in the starting 11, especially after seeing Lee Ki-jae's poor performances at the Asian Cup. I'm not saying Kim Jin-soo is a perfect player, far from that, guys. However, I do think that he is one of our best left backs for now. He's definitely one of the premier left backs in the K League, and I think he put in a half decent performance this game for the Korean national team. Obviously, he's a name that we should look to improve on as we approach the 2026 World Cup. But for now, I think he's a perfect veteran presence. He does his job on the pitch. He's a great inverted fullback, likes to operate a bit more centrally. And he's a great team player as well. So it was great to see him back on the pitch. In the midfield, we got lined up in a 4-3-3. There's a three-man midfield. Paek Sungo was at the base of that midfield. I don't know if you guys know, but Paek Sungo recently made his move to Birmingham City in the championship. And I thought, it wasn't a great performance from Paek. I'm not going to lie. But we're going to talk more about this in point number two. So I'm going to jump over Sungo a little bit quickly. A little bit more further advanced was Hwang In-bum and Lee Jae-sung. Lee Jae-sung especially, I thought, had a very very solid game. He assisted Son Heung-min's goal, where he picked up the ball deep in the left half of the Thailand side, and a beautiful cutback to Sunny, who finished it and buried it in the right side of the net. You know exactly what you're gonna get from Lee Jae-sung every single game, which is what I love about him. It's this tireless work rate. He sacrifices so much for the team. He covers, so much ground. And sure, at times are there moments where technically he doesn't have his best moments? Yes. But I also think that he's a very solid midfielder with the ball. There's a reason why he starts week in, week out in the Bundesliga for Mainz. And he's getting older in age, but for now, I think he is one of our best midfielders, and it was great to see him start again. And I think he had a phenomenal game, so he deserves a shutout. In the front three, Sunny, on paper, it was a left wing role for Sunny, but if you guys watched throughout the game, he had a free role similar to what we saw under Klinsmann, where he was roaming about the pitch wherever the ball was. That's where Sunny was, and he was always looking to get involved. Um, Up top, it was Chu Mingyu making his first start for the Korean national team. Really a great moment for him because he's been dreaming of the national team for his whole life. He's put in some outstanding performances over the years in the K League, and he finally got his chance. And honestly, I thought he had a really great game. Alongside Peck, he's someone I want to talk about in point number two. So I'm gonna sing his praises then. And finally, right wing, it was Chong Woo Young, which To me, guys, I thought that this selection was a little bit surprising. I guess looking back in, in hindsight, perhaps it isn't surprising because Chong Young was one of the key figures in Hwang Sonong's Asian Games winning side just a few months ago when the Korean team won military exemption at the Asian Games, and Chong Young was the top goal scorer for that Hwang Sonong side. So maybe his familiarity with Chong Young, and he was able to see Chong Young excel for such a long tournament. Maybe that was why Hwang Sonong selected Chong Young. But I didn't like the selection for a couple of reasons. First, I don't think that he is necessarily a right winger. At the same time, I don't know exactly what is his best position because he's been moved around so much, starting from his time with the Bayern Munich Academy. Then he had a stint in Freiburg in the Bundesliga. He now plays for Stuttgart. I think his career has been a bit unlucky in that he joins a certain German team when they are, mid-table or slightly down the table. And the year Chong Young joins, that's when they start to play really nice football. And when he was with Freiburg, Freiburg were fourth or fifth, and now that he joined Stuttgart, Stuttgart are doing incredible in the Bundesliga as well. So Chong Young really hasn't been able to nail down a starting spot in any of these teams. So it's difficult really for me to say what is Chong Yun's best position, but it's definitely not this right wing. Even in the Asian games, he was playing well when he was on the left side, but obviously that's Sonny's position, so he couldn't play there today. He's played as the number 10 before under Paolo Bento. But yeah, I mean, I just think that there were other names that, either deserved a start or could have played better today other than Chong Young. So, point number one, was that really our best starting lineup? I don't think so. I don't think that was our best starting lineup at all. Um, Lee Gang-in's exclusion will be talked about. Is that a punishment or a suspension for Ping Pong Gate? Was that Hwang Sonong's message to the Korean fans saying, "Hey, I hear you. I hear that you guys are disappointed with Lee Gang-in, and we're going to start him on the bench for this game against Thailand." I don't necessarily think that's the case. He flew in 1 day later than all the other European based players. He's playing regularly for PSG. He's just had a really, really difficult schedule for PSG. So I think that this was, the decision to exclude Lee Gang-in was purely based on fatigue and physical readiness. I don't think that he was ready to step in and play the full 90 minutes. And when he came on, I thought he showed his quality. I thought, again, he was an excellent dribbler. He created quite a few good chances. And yeah, I thought that he played quite well. So moving on to point number two, guys. Why did we take off Chu Mingyu firstly, and then secondly, Pek Sung-ho disappointing? Really, really liked what I saw from Chu Mingyu today. If you guys know, I'm not his biggest supporter. Like, I don't dislike the player. I just think he has clear limitations, and I think those clear limitations were on display today. He's not a really workhorse striker. And I said this in the last video. I don't mean that he's lazy. I just think that, he's great, you know, near this penalty area, maybe slightly around it. He's a poacher. If there's a chance, more often than not, he's going to score it. But he doesn't necessarily, he's not necessarily a Sunny up top, where Sunny is, if you see him play under Ainge Postecoglou system, he's pressing like a madman. He's dropping into the channels to create spaces for guys like Dejan Kulusevski, James Madison, who's on the left there, either Brennan Johnson or Timo Werner to operate around. Juminho is not that kind of striker, which is why I was saying, is he the best fit for us? And he's also getting older in age. And since we're thinking about, performing in the 2026 World Cup, which is in a couple of years' time, it made me wonder whether Chumingyo was a good fit. But today, his weaknesses were there, but also I thought his strengths shone through so much. It was refreshing to be able to see a striker where you pass it to his feet, and he is not going to lose the ball when the Thai defenders are at his back trying to steal it. He held up play incredibly well, which allowed the likes of Sunny, Chong Woo-young, Lee Jae-sung, Hwang In-bom to push forward. And while he was holding up the ball, these guys were able to push forward. He lays it off to one of these guys, and then we see a chance creation from there. Um, I think he missed a pretty decent chance in the first half, but again, when it's your first start down to nerves, even the greatest strikers miss a few chances. So I think that's definitely forgivable. But I thought he was a great striker for us, and it was peculiar as to why Hwang Sunong took him out in the second half when he started to really grow into the game. And when Hwang Sunong took him out, Son Heung-min became the lone striker. Worked for a little while, and then Hwang Sunong putting Cho Gyu-sung, and then Son Heung-min went back to his free role. And Cho Gyu-sung he was disappointing again. I think honestly to the point where I think we should consider not calling him up for a couple of national team periods. I think he missed at least two clear cut chances to score goals. He wasn't good aerially. His touches were poor. I just don't see the same hunger from him that I saw in the 2022 World Cup. And for a player like him, that's where he brings value. He's not the most technical striker, and it's not like he's the best finisher either. What you want from him is this dog mentality. You know, you want him to be crazily running at defenders like we saw in Qatar. You want him to be throwing his body when there's a header, like you saw against the Ghana game in Qatar, where he scored those amazing headers. But I just don't see that same hunger in his eyes. And I wonder if he's, maybe taking his place in the Korean national team for granted, especially at during Klinsmann's tenure, when Klinsmann straight up said Cho Gyu-sung is our starting striker, and that's it. So I think maybe he needs to focus a little bit more on his club football in Denmark. He's doing quite well there, and use this time to reflect on his game and see where he can improve on, because he's still young. There have been, even a guy like Chu Mingyu, he's developed his game over the years. He started, I think, with I want to say Songnam in the K League. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But then he went to Jeju, Ulsan. He's had many, many stints in K League teams, and every step of the way, he's added something to his arsenal. He's added elite finishing. He's added hold up play. He's added those nifty little touches to to lay off the ball to the wingers or the number 10. But with Cho Gyu-sung, it feels like he had a crazy ascent during the World Cup, and then his game has stagnated or even gone a little bit down. So I want him to take this time to really reflect on his game and see what he can add more to this Korean national team. And I say that, with love, as constructive criticism. I don't hate the guy. I think he's still a good player. I just think he has a lot to work on. And then point number 2, guys, Paek Sung-ho disappointing. Paek Sung-ho made his move to Birmingham, like I mentioned earlier in the video. He's actually playing really well in England, and I was excited to see him in this starting 11. I'm not going to hide it, he was disappointing today. His touches were quite awful at times. He also had the chance to win the game late on in the second half, which he missed. I think he was like, the chance was right over here in the left inside of the penalty box of the Thailand team, but he missed that. Hard to scrutinize him for that miss, but in overall, his play was quite disappointing. I think a little bit is due to nerves. He's making, his return to the Korean national team. He was nervous. Maybe he wanted to show himself off a little too much, and that led to hurrying his play, not calming himself down like he does at Birmingham. And secondly, I don't think that this midfield setup is conducive to his strengths. He's like the sole midfielder at the base of a midfield 3, And I think a lot of the times what happened was, yeah, the fullbacks pushed up quite high. Kim Young-gon spread out wide, Kim Min-jae spread out wide, and then Paek Sung-ho dropped as, the almost a third center back. It's something you saw a lot in when Paolo Bentu was the manager, where the CDM dropped, and he was basically like the quarterback of the team, helping the team build out. But I don't necessarily know if Paek Sung was the most press resistant central defensive midfielder. I think he's quite good technically, but that press resistant game has never, like something that Sergio Busquets has, something like maybe a Declan Rice at Arsenal has. He doesn't necessarily have that in his game. I think it's asking quite a lot for him, and right now when we're in a stage where we're transitioning from awful Klinsmann ball to mediocre Hwang Sunong ball, we don't really have a set build up structure as well. So it's based on individual talent, and I think this actually is quite conducive to exposing Paek Sung-ho's weaknesses. So it was really disappointing for Hwang Sunong to make this selection as for Paek Sung-ho as the lone central defensive midfielder. I actually think that either maybe he would play best in Hwang Imom's role, where he's slightly further forward, um, or Lee Jae-sung's role, or again a double pivot where it's Paek Sung-ho and another central defensive midfielder, who can help him build out from the back. So it's tough to point the full blame on Paek Sung-ho, but I just wanted to highlight that it was a disappointing return for the for Paek Sung-ho and the Korean national team. It was a disappointing game for a lot of players. I'm going to be honest. I'm just singling out Paek Sung-ho because I had so many expectations for him based on his good performances in Birmingham. That being said, I don't want to write him off. There's definitely still a good player there. He's going to continue to develop in the championship. So yeah, he definitely, is a guy that, is vying for a spot in that 2026 World Cup roster. And finally, point number 3, what do I want to see in the next game against Thailand? And I actually made a lineup for us. Choi in net, Sonung as the left back, and he actually plays quite well as the left back in general. In Ulsan, he plays there quite often, and that's where Klinsmann used him at the Asian Cup, and I thought he was quite good because I want to see Kim Won-han back. Kim Won-han was the starting right back under Paolo Bentu. He had a phenomenal World Cup, in I thought at least in 2022, and suddenly he's dropped out of favor due to some reason. He made his move to the Qatar League, but I don't know why he was suddenly dropped. I think he's an excellent attacking fullback. He's a little bit different from Sorungo, where Sorungo likes to play a little bit more inverted here, but Kim Moon-han, I think, provides a little bit more width, going down the flank. And for based, he's smaller in size, but he's not a bad defender. I didn't think that he was terribly exposed in Qatar. So I want to really accommodate Kim Moon-han and see him for this international period to see his form and see if he still has his game. Secondly, this one was a bit tricky. Like I want Kim Min-jae definitely retains his spot for obvious reasons. Kim Young-won today I thought had a disappointing game, and we should be phasing him out anyways due to the age. Choi Min-min's a good player. Do I love him? Not really, but based on what Hwang Sun-dong selected for this period, I guess he's the best young option out there that we could try out. Kwang Kyung-on was the other name, but he's also old, so I was wondering if there was a value to trying out Kwang Kyung-on. Eventually, I would like to see, for example, Lee Han-bum there. Lee Han-bum's playing in the Denmark League in the same team as Chu Yu-sung, and he's playing quite well. He was the centerpiece of the team that won gold at the Asian Games, and he's super young. I think he's like 20 or 21, so he's definitely one that we should prepare for. But yeah, Choi Min for now. And I want to see a more physical central defensive midfielder and a more like a guy who's a central defensive midfielder. We've tried Hwang In-bum there, we've tried Paek Sung-ho there, but honestly, give it to the guy who plays CDM on a week to week basis, and that's Park Ji-sub who does it for Cheonbuk. Very very physical defender, great in the air. And he's not half bad with his passing as well. I think, for how good he was at the Asian Games, he only got a couple of brief performances at the Asian Cup, and I think he deserves really to get an extended run in this Korean national team. Keep the two midfielders Lee Jae-sung and Hwang In-bum, but in the second half, I would like to see Chung Ho-yeon come in for Hwang In-bum. Chung Ho-yeon, one of my favorite young midfielders in the K League, playing for Gwangju under Lee Jung-yeol, who plays Brighton-esque ball, really attractive football, and Chung Ho-yeon himself is the pivotal piece in that football, so I want to see him there. And then the front three, we keep it. Chu Min-gyu deserves to keep his spot. Probably I want to see him for a full 90 this time, unless he's playing terribly. Son Heung-min as the left winger, and then Lee Gang-in comes back into lineup against in the right wing. And I think, I know that we're away, and I know that we're coming off a disappointing 1-1 draw against Thailand, but I think that with, this lineup with a few tweaks, I think that we should be able to comfortably beat the Thailand team. And with all due respect to Thailand, and for that matter, any Southeast Asian team, um, I still think that we're levels above them. Did Thailand impress me today? Not really. The first 10 to 15 minutes, they were actually coming on to us really good. But after that, after the next 75, 80 minutes, they didn't really create much. Defensively, they were okay. But again, if on another day when we were finishing our chances, today's result is 3-1, 4-1. Um, and again, this is us in a discombobulated state. This is us, without really a manager, still playing Klinsmann ball, and it was still a 3-1, 4-1 game. If the KFA actually wakes up and hires a half decent manager, then I think Thailand is a team we easily beat in the future. But again, I know that it's a sensitive topic, especially for Southeast Asian fans who think that Korean football fans or media kind of look down on them. And I want to be careful about that because I really respect what's going on in Southeast Asia right now. There's actually a ton of Korean managers that have helped set that up as well, whether it's Park Hang-seo in Vietnam, Shin Tae-yong in Indonesia, Kim Pang-gon in Malaysia. I don't look down at any football in any part of the world. I just think objectively, if we're at 100% with the proper tactics, with the proper player selection, I think Thailand is a team that we should be beating comfortably. Anyways, guys, that brings us to an end to this video. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe to BB Ballers, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.